The following is a production of Stevenson Media.
This is the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Houston Sports Nation, Nick Stevenson.
My goodness, thank you so much. Please be seated. Let's try that again, shall we? My fellow Houstonians, it's my great pleasure to finally address you as the Houston Sports State of the Union president. I am your gracious and noble host, Nick Stevenson. Welcome to the inaugural Houston Sports State of the Union address. Once again, did you vote for me? No, you did not. Does that make me a self-appointed dictator? It 100% does. But if you'll please hear me out. I may not be the voice that you asked for, Houston, but I am the voice that you deserve. If you've been a Houston sports fan for any amount of time, you understand it comes with many ups, it comes with many downs. For every victory, there is an equally painful loss. For every Tracy McGrady 13 points in 33 seconds, there is an equal 27 consecutive missed three-pointers in the 2019 Western Conference Finals. And really, those are the moments that I'm here for. I said it before, Houston does really well when things are going well. But sometimes when things aren't going so well, that is when Houston needs strength, stability, and leadership, and that is what I am here for. Now, I may have self-appointed myself, but I assure you, I believe in democracy, so I'm gonna ask you, please, give me 4 episodes. That's my first term. 4 episodes. If you don't think this podcast is good enough to justify me calling myself the president of Houston Sports Nation, I will allow you to either call up the show, or you can come in studio and give me an impeachment inquiry. All I have to say is you better bring your receipts, because I'm going to have mine. On a serious note, though, especially if this is the second time you've tried doing this, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. I'm very excited to start this project. Some of you may have been with me in my previous project, the Smells Like Middle-Aged Spirit podcast, and it's been a long time coming before I started something else. So Houston sports is something that I love. It's something that I love to talk about. It's something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I think I know a little bit about, if I'm going to be honest. So, I'm super excited, and I hope that, all of you are excited as well. I've been hyping this thing up for a long time, done a bunch of practice episodes and everything. And somehow, finally the time is here, the time has come, and I'm excited to do this show with you guys. I had some problems with the stream earlier, so I started a completely new stream. If you guys are watching on Facebook, I appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, I appreciate it. We're also on Instagram, and we are on the app formerly known as Twitter. So you may be asking yourself, why should I listen to the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast? Well, that's a good question, and it's a fair question. That I'm not anybody. I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy from Texas City. And some of you may not even be all that interested in sports, but you're here supporting me, and I do appreciate that. What I will tell you, though, is that if you don't think you like sports, you may be just looking at it the wrong way. And what I hope to do is resonate with some of you not so sports fans on the way that sports and life itself are parallel. To me, sports means more than just statistics, athleticism. It means more than just who won the game, point spreads. Obviously, all that stuff's important, and all that stuff we will talk about, 100%. But for me, sports is about so much more than just that. Sports is about the first time you played catch with your dad. It's about the first time you hit a home run in Little League, how excited you were, the first time you got a hit. The first time you finally made a basket after you'd been trying for years, trying to get that big heavy ball up over that rim, and the first time you did it, and the memories you made at that time. It's about going out to the ballpark with your family, having a hot dog, and rooting for a common goal with a bunch of strangers that you know nothing about. Some of them you might not even like in real life, but at that one moment, while you're at the game, all of you guys are on the same page. And that's the thing about sports, is it's a very unifying thing. I think often about 2017 with the Houston Astros, the Hurricane Harvey. That was one thing that was unifying. But also the Astros run that year, as much controversy as there is around that run, it still was a very unifying thing for the city. And I think that that's what sports is really about. And so I hope to resonate with some of you who don't really necessarily care about the teams. And maybe as you start to understand a little bit more about why I care about sports, maybe you'll start to care about it more too. Let's create some new Astros fans. Let's create some new Texans fans, Rockets. We got Roughnecks coming up. We got the Sabercats. We might even be getting hockey soon. Like, it's a great time to be a sports fan in the city of Houston. And it was a great time to start a podcast about Houston sports. And I really, really hope that this thing's going to take off, but I'm going to need your help. Speaking of help, there are some ways you can support the show. Before we get started, I want to let you know that number one, you're already doing. You're watching, you're listening, and many of you have been sharing with your friends and family. So I appreciate it so much. Please continue to do so. I really have big plans to make this thing grow. I want this to be a part of your rotation. Podcasting is a very, very expanding platform, both financially and just there's a lot of podcast listeners. I think there's 504 people that listen to a podcast in the year 2023. That was 23% of the people who are on the internet. So that being said, you have a lot of options, but I'm glad that you're here with me, and I hope to be among your rotation if you're a Houston sports fan. Another way, I'm really getting the hang. Oh no, I'm getting the hang of this. That QR code right there, that's how you get access to my tip jar. You can leave anything from $1 to I think $100. Anything you leave the show as a donation is much, much appreciated. I promise you, it goes right back into bringing you guys more content. And what I will say, if you give $50 or more, I don't want you to walk away empty-handed, so I'm going to give you a free Houston Sports State of the Union t-shirt. And there's been some people who've done that already. Guys, I want you to know your t-shirts are actually coming in the mail tomorrow, so I will be gladly hand-delivering those to you. And I want to hand-deliver all of you a Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. So $50 or more to the tip jar, and that's what you'll get. There's also in the description of the video that you're watching, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, I don't know if Instagram does descriptions, but on YouTube, Facebook, there are descriptions where you can go and there's affiliate links inside of there. I have a affiliate with Amazon, and I've gone and I've picked out featured fan gear of the week. There's Rockets, there's Astros, there's Texans, got some Dynamo swag in there. There's some Roughneck swag in there. If you guys go in there, you're going to get the equipment anyway, right? You're going to buy the swag. Why not use my link? Give me a little something on the side. You know what I'm trying to get. We're a capitalist country, of course, but mostly I want you to rep your city. But if you're going to rep your city, like, let me get a cut. It's cool, man. We're friends. I'll make sure that all of the money that comes into this show, I assure you, it's very well spent, and it's for doing the business of the people. Lastly, if you want sponsorship opportunity, I've said this before, I wasn't even really looking for sponsorship, but people ask me about it, and, I'll just let you guys know. Right now, I'm a startup. I'm getting started. I'm working through some technical difficulties, obviously. That's been a theme for the last few months, but I'm going to get this thing figured out, and I assure you it's going to grow. And like I was saying, not only is there more and more podcast listeners, but podcasting is bringing in more and more revenue. I believe by 2025, it's going to be a $4 billion industry, $4 or $5 billion industry. So the time is right. Now, I've only got like probably 4 people watching this one, so you may not want to throw your money at me right now, but I assure you, I've told everybody that I've pitched to, get me now, because the thing's gonna grow, and it's gonna be good, and it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to growing my business with your business. All right, let's see. I got Aaron Childs in the chat right now. Aaron, thank you so much for your comment. It says you resonated with me, big dog, and I really appreciate that. That's what I want to do for Houston sports. And Aaron, let me know how the stream's going, because we had some problems a little bit earlier. So I appreciate you hanging in there, brother. You've been one of the big supporters of both of my shows. So I really, 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 really appreciate you. Okay. So those are the ways you can support the show. And I hope I've given you a good enough reason why for now, help you get to know me and understand why I care about Houston sports so much. But I want to know the same about you. If you guys are in the chat, if you can let me know, what is the moment in Houston sports history that you became a Houston sports fan? I'm really curious to know because I love to hear those stories. And I want to be able to, like I said, create some new Houston fans. Some of you may be young men or women just starting a family. Like, I would love to start making enough revenue and sponsorship on this show. I want to send a dad and his son to their first game together. Like, that's what it's really about to me. So what's the moment for you that you became a Houston sports fan? Now, I did ask that question in one of our rehearsals. So if you were here and you answered that question already, I'll ask you to tell me who's your favorite Houston sports team and why is that team your favorite team? All right. So, hey, Amity Innovations in the building. That's Ron and Stephanie. Guys, unfortunately, I had some technical difficulties again. I got to get that figured out, man. I thought 3 rehearsals was enough to get that figured out, but apparently not. But it's all good, man. We're just getting started. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to put in the chat. Let me know what's the moment that solidified you as a Houston fan. Who's your favorite Houston sports team? What's your favorite player and why? Let's see. Let's go ahead and look at the chat really quick because we got some people coming in here. And let's see. That's probably not the right chat. Oh, that's the chat from the previous one. All right, that's cool. All right, we got Shanae Montgomery in the building. She says, can't pick a moment, but I'm a Clutch City 90s era Houston Rockets fan. It was Texans after that and so on. Understood. And I am the same. I fell in love with the Rockets in the 90s, and I've been riding 10 toes down for them through all the heartbreaks that we've had since then. So I understand 100%. And yeah, I'm a big Texans fan as well. What I will say is the order for me probably goes Rockets, Astros, Texans. I shed tears. I shed tears of joy when the Astros won the World Series in 2017. If the Texans won the Super Bowl, I would think it was really cool. I couldn't see myself getting that emotional about it though. And maybe it's just because they're still young and we still haven't had, I made a video that says without the pain of defeat, you can't really appreciate victory. And although the Texans have had a lot of defeat, they just haven't been around long enough to really put together a team that we feel like really has a chance. Not yet. They're getting close. And then falling short. That's part of the process when you're a fan. Like your team knocks on the door. And when they finally break through, it's a great feeling. So, but no, Shanae, I completely understand that 90s era too. That's me. Aaron Child says the Astros winning the World Series when Joe Buck was silent for 5 minutes. Astros fans do not like Joe Buck. And as the president of Houston Sports Nation, you guys probably aren't going to like my take on that. We'll get into that later. But what are you here for? You're here because we want to talk about the State of the Union. So let's do that. Speaking of the Astros, let's go with the state of the Houston Astros first. All right. I just want to let you guys know first that this segment could be sponsored by your business if you wanted to. So keep that in mind, guys. I would love to, be able to pitch your business while we're doing the show. And if you're an Astros fan and you want to sponsor the Astros segment, give me a call, or you can hit me up on email at hsstateoftheunionpod@gmail.com. Okay. We're 7 days away from opening day, from being in this building that I'm in right now. And it feels just like yesterday the Astros were defeated to their rival Texas Rangers. I feel like the offseason's gone really quickly. And that's good. If you're a fan, that's great. Baseball's a really long season. And I have to admit to you guys, like, as I've gotten older and have more responsibilities, I can't sit here and say, like, I am watching with bated breath every pitch of all 162 games. But I do enjoy that the regular season does mean something, especially now that they've expanded the playoff and there's more teams that have a chance. And there's some people who like that, some people who don't like that. I understand. But as we approach opening day against the Yankees a week from tonight, our Houston Astros are in an interesting position. They've been the most dominant team in the league for almost a decade. And yet, they definitely still have the talent to keep competing, but it feels like their window is probably closer to closing than staying open. And the only reason I say that is Framber Valdez is going to be our opening day starter for the third year in a row. And don't get me wrong, I love Framber, but Framber has really been up and down, not consistent. And last year, he was very inconsistent. And our pitching, I think going into the offseason, we really hoped that pitching, starting pitching, bullpen was going to be addressed. Now, with the addition of Josh Hader, I think the Astros bullpen is completely solidified. I think that there's a really good chance that they have one of the best bullpens, if not the best bullpen in baseball. But we went into this season counting on a 41-year-old Justin Verlander, counting on a Framber Valdez and a Christian Javier, who have been somewhat shaky the last season, and also in spring training so far have been a little bit shaky. And we've got a young Hunter Brown. We've got an aging Urquidy, who we come to find out is having forearm problems. He's having discomfort in his forearm. And I don't know about you, but that sounds really familiar. Tommy John. Speaking of Tommy John, we have Lance McCullers, who we have no idea when this guy's going to start. So I think there's a lot of question marks going into opening day. And I don't want to rain on everybody's parade. Don't worry. I'm going to have the silver lining at the end. But we got to keep it real. Framber Valdez has struggled. He struggled in the postseason. Christian Javier struggled in the postseason. If there's one thing I'd never expected, it was for Christian Javier to get absolutely shellacked in Game 7 of the ALCS. And he did. But it wasn't all on those people, but I think those were the glaring weaknesses that we saw and we hoped they would address. So they addressed the bullpen. There were rumors that they were going to address starting pitching. As a matter of fact, there was a lot of smoke around the fire of Blake Snell. Well, he's playing for the Giants now. And then there was rumors after Blake Snell signed with the Giants that they would maybe pivot to Jordan Montgomery. Well, the Astros have already squashed those rumors. Michael Lorenzen was an option, but guess what? Today he signed with the Rangers. So where do the Astros go from here? Framber seems very confident, even though he's been struggling. After his first outing in spring training, he said, quote, "I think my quality of pitches are good. I'm just thinking more about the intensity. Obviously, first outing in spring, I can't go out there and just go 100%. I think the more I go in spring, the more I'm going to raise the intensity." Well, Framber, your last outing, you went 4 innings. You gave up 4 runs and 6 hits. So maybe the intensity you need, you'll have against the Yankees a week from tonight. And I hope that you will. I really, really hope that you will. But the painful truth is you've been struggling, my guy. And that's not what I was looking for. Sorry about that. There it is. Framber Valdez in 2024. He's played 3 games. His win-loss is 0-0. He has a 7.71 ERA. And his whip is 1.93. 14 Ks. He struck out 8 against the Cardinals in his last outing. That was nice. But like I said, he gave up 6 hits, 4 runs, and only 4 innings. He's pitched 9 innings. That's not great, man. It really, really isn't, to be honest with you. And I told you in the times that things are not going well, we need strength, stability, and leadership. And I will say this. Depth at starting pitching does look like it's going to be a problem. Like I said, Urquidy's hurt. Justin Verlander is probably using AARP for his benefits right about now to deal with his injury. It's a concern. Now, Joe Espada, he's saying all the right things. He's saying, hey, I like what we have. And what else is he going to say? Like, oh my God, we're going to suck. He's not going to say that. And I expect, listen, what they do have is a potent offense. They have a great bullpen. So they're just going to have to score a lot of runs because I have a feeling that the starting pitching is going to give up some runs. But they definitely should still compete. Like, we should not be afraid that the Astros run is over. Some people thought that last year. But I think the rest of the AL West and the rest of the league has either they've caught up or we've taken a step back, however you want to see it. But with their offense and with the bullpen, they should still win some games. They should still be among the leaders in the AL West. We just should not expect them to run away with it like they have in the past. And that's just how I feel about it. But I would say the state of the Astros is strong. It's still good. We shouldn't be concerned too much that that they're just completely going to tank this season. We gotta have some patience though, because I think it will not be, 2019, 2020 where we're just running away with this thing. But I'm curious, talking to you guys, what is your opening day tradition? And how confident are you in the Astros? You guys let me know in the chat what things you like to do on opening day. I've been working opening day for like the last several years, but obviously for me, I think most Houston sports fans, and this you may disagree with this, taking your family to the games, especially on opening day. Like, have you seen opening day ticket prices right now? It's insane. And taking a family of 4 or 5, that is really expensive. And I would say more Astros fans than not probably can't afford to do that. And so I don't want to compare apples to oranges and say, oh, this person is a bigger fan, but I believe there's a lot of diehard Astros and Rockets and Texans fans who maybe never have even been to a game. They're watching on TV, they're listening on the radio, they're cheering a team that can't hear them cheer for them, and they're doing it because they love the team, because they love the city. And so that's one of the reasons, like I said, I would love to build this podcast up to a point where I can start sending people to a game, because it's just the experience is great. Don't get me wrong, but I think the hardcore fans they're at the house, they're chilling. And for me, that's what I've always done on opening day. My favorite thing to do on opening day is just throw something on the grill, drink a cold one, and watch the game on TV in HD without, some drunk lunatic sitting behind me, unless it's one of my friends or family. Those you can kind of deal with, right? No, but I'm just saying, like, the experience of being in the stadium is great, but sometimes it's cool to just kick it at the house with your friends and family, drink a cold beer that doesn't cost $25. And for me, that's what opening day is all about. Hopefully it'll be good weather. I don't know if the roof is going to be open or not. We'll see. But the state of the Astros is good, and I think people should be very optimistic about them. And I think they should be optimistic about the odds that we have a chance to get back to the ALCS and back to the World Series. I really do believe that. Now it's going to take a bunch of guys stepping up. A bunch of guys need bounce back years. Pena, we already talked about Fromber, Christian Javier. I think Brown needs to have a really good season. And we'll see what we get out of Verlander, man. I mean, when he's healthy, he's still that dude. But we just don't know how healthy he's going to be. He seems optimistic. He seems to feel like, he'll be ready to go, just not at the beginning of the season. So we'll see. But the state of the Houston Astros is good, man. And I'm looking forward to opening day. I want you to call your shot. Who's going to win? Who's going to, the Yankees would love nothing more but to come into Minute Maid and shellac the Astros. But in the past, Fromber has shown he's a big game pitcher. And yes, it's the first game of the season, but anytime the Yankees come to town, it's a big game. It's going to be on national television. Like, it's going to be a big game. So I'm looking forward to it, man. State of the Astros is good, though. Let's talk about the state of the Texans. Okay. The Texans are coming off a Cinderella season that nobody saw coming. and they didn't really have any expectations. That's all changing this year. They have expectations now. Excuse me. Now all eyes were on them for free agency to see, all right, great season, got a playoff win at home, won your division on the very last day of the season. What are you going to do now? And I would say so far, they have not disappointed. The Texans appear to be all in on defense because they completely overhauled most of their front seven. If we go ahead and take a look at a graphic I already accidentally showed you, but now I want to show you. This is the Houston Texans free agency additions and subtractions. Look at that. It's all defense other than Joe Mixon. And some of the smaller signings, I didn't put on this list because honestly, it just wasn't big enough. But I guess the big one was Danielle Hunter, Danico Autry, Aziz Al-Shir. Have fun saying that every day, Mr. Vandermeer. Joe Mixon via trade, and then some of the smaller signings, Mario Edwards Jr. Tommy Townsend, I have no clue how good of a punter he is. I know that I really liked Cameron Johnston, so I think he's moved on to the Steelers. So I don't know if the Texans wanted to bring him back and just couldn't, or perhaps they saw something in Tommy Townsend that they think is going to be better for them. Jeff Okuda should probably start on the other side of Stingley. And then we have Florenzo Fatukasi. Yeah, have fun, Vandermeer. I need him to get some sacks, but let's just have him be a run stuffer. But have fun trying to say that name. Our man Lonnie Johnson Jr. is back. I believe he's going to play safety. I think that's the better position for him. And then Mike Ford, cornerback. So almost everybody they brought in, the major moves they made was defense. The crazy thing is that there was so many rumors swarming around Saquon Barkley to the Texans. And on the day he decided to go to Philadelphia, I made a post and I said, you guys had to know this dude was playing around with us. I don't think he was ever really serious about coming here. I think, and unfortunately, Houston gets used for that a lot. Oftentimes teams are like, yeah, you don't want to give me the money? Well, I'll go to Houston. Houston had cap space, so they could have had the ability to overpay. So I got the feeling that Saquon used him as a little bit of leverage. What made me nervous, though, is they miss out on Saquon. I didn't really want Derrick Henry, but some people did. And then they lose Devin Singletary, who was their best rusher last season. And now I started getting really nervous. What is going on? But you know what? Credit to Nick Caserio and credit to D'Amico Ryans. They pull a rabbit out of the hat and they get Joe Mixon in a trade. And I'll tell you what, man, Joe Mixon's a good player. He rushed for 1,000 yards last season. He scored 9 touchdowns. He rushed for 1,200 2 seasons ago. He's a good player. He averaged 4 yards a carry. If he can do that here, that's going to be huge. I really would like to see Dameon Pierce bounce back. Speaking of players who need to bounce back. It was a weird year for him last year. And I don't know how much of it was run blocking scheme. It seemed like there were holes there when Singletary was running the ball. So I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure what was wrong with him. Maybe he was injured and he didn't want to say it. The only thing he really did was return that one touchdown back on a kickoff, which ended up being meaningless because the Texans got obliterated in that game. But Joe Mixon's a good pickup, and I hope that the Texans will be able to run the ball a lot better than they did last season. What I like about the Nixon signing is he's been on a Super Bowl team. He knows what the vibe is supposed to feel like. He knows what that locker room is supposed to feel like. He's just now gotten here, but he's going to know pretty quick, if the Texans got the juice that it takes to take that next step and go somewhere they've never been before. They've never even been to the AFC Championship game. Do you think they're going to make it there? That is the question. I think that they will eventually make it there. This season, look, man, I'll tell you what. for a team in a city that complains a lot about national media not giving us any love, the national media they've been on it. They're on the Texans right now. There's people saying that they're the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Ravens probably still have something to say about that. I mean, the Ravens just got done clobbering us in the playoffs. And while I like the moves that we've made, like this team still has some things to prove, but lots and lots and lots of optimism around the Houston Texans. I hope my wife will actually want to watch Texan games in the morning because we went through years of just not even being able to watch. Just too much hot garbage to justify waking up on a Sunday when you could be chilling or you could be watching something else like Love is Blind reruns. I don't know. But the Texans are exciting. They're fun. And it's gonna be really fun. So I see some people asking about the stream. So I am streaming on YouTube also. Unfortunately, the original YouTube stream that I set up, something was going on with it, and I don't know what. Like I'm still trying to figure this out. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with the live stream, but it appears to be working now. So I thank everybody who's hung in there for coming back. Erica and Bryce, I see you guys in the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your guys' support. Like, I can't even explain that. So let's talk about Nick Caserio, because not everything that he did was good, at least in my opinion. I think he was feeling himself because he got some good players. He's had some couple of good drafts, some good signings like Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz. Dude's feeling himself right now, and he traded away. Excuse me. My goodness. He traded away the Texans' number 1 pick this year. Now, this is what I'm concerned about, because Bill O'Brien did something very similar. Bill O'Brien was feeling himself after a couple of years and started making some what he thought were slick moves that weren't so slick. It looked like the Texans were primed to use that first-round pick to add to the receiving core. And maybe they feel like they can get as good of a receiver in the second round. Maybe they feel like next year's draft, those second-round picks that they acquired are more valuable than a first-round pick this year. I mean, obviously, if they didn't believe that, they wouldn't have done it. If they believe that those 2 seconds were less valuable than the one that they gave up, then they suck at their job. So clearly, they think they know something that everybody else doesn't know, but that's the kind of stuff that worries me. Those are the things that makes me feel like this dude, he was on the chopping block before D'Amico showed up. Like, he was about to get fired if they didn't have a good season this year. I fully believe that Nick Caserio would have been gone. So he has a good season. They win the division. They make the playoffs. He's got some good signings, some good drafts. And I really think this dude is feeling himself hardcore. I hope he's right. He's now earned some grace. He's earned a little bit of leeway because of the quickness of the turnaround for the Texans. But we'll see. The signing I want to talk about is Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter is a Houston native. I believe he's from Katy. If anybody knows if that's correct or not, please correct me. So Danielle Hunter's played 8 seasons. He's made the Pro Bowl 4 times in those seasons. 119 games. He started 90 of them. 87.5 sacks, 778 total tackles, 108 tackles for loss. Dude's a beast. And our old buddy J.J. Watt gave him the stamp of approval via the X, formerly known as Twitter. And speaking of J.J. Watt, the media wanted to know, hey, Danielle, you wear number 99. Are you still going to wear that? And this is what's confusing to me. Now, Danielle Hunter said he's not going to wear 99 because he said, hey, that's JJ's number. I'm not going to wear it. So we just put JJ in the ring of honor at the stadium. He joined Cal McNair and Andre Johnson Why does going into the Ring of Honor not retire your number? I don't really understand that. I feel like that should be the case. But either way, I guess Danielle Hunter had the option to wear 99, and he chose not to do it. But I just thought it was weird that that was even an option less than a year removed of the Texans putting J.J. Watt into the Ring of Honor. And the Ring of Honor, it has your number next to it. So I thought at the time that retired your number, but apparently it doesn't. It also got me thinking about this. What do you believe the Texans Mount Rushmore would consist of? I think it's pretty solidified, but I'm just curious if you guys want to put in the chat who you think the Texans Mount Rushmore is. To me, I think it's obvious. Obviously, you start with Andre Johnson, J.J. Watt. Then I would go with Arian Foster and D'Amico Ryans. I think that's your 4 guys on the Houston Texans Mount Rushmore right now. Now, I think before it's all said and done, C.J. Stroud will be on that Mount Rushmore. The question is, once he's up there, who's coming off? It'd be really interesting to see. Because what if C.J. Stroud wins a Super Bowl as the quarterback of the Houston Texans, and D'Amico Ryans is the head coach of the Houston Texans? Does D'Amico still come off of that Mount Rushmore? Let's see. Aaron Childs says Watt, Cushing, Johnson, and Foster. So Aaron doesn't even have D'Amico on it right now. That's interesting. I think D'Amico belongs on it. I could see, I don't know. I personally feel like Brian Cushing was a little bit overrated. I know he was a fan favorite because he was crazy and he would headbutt people with no helmet on, and you thought he might actually kill somebody on the field if if one little wire went loose. But to me, it's like I said, AJ, Andre Johnson, Watt, Foster, and D'Amico. But so let me ask you, Aaron, since you're in the chat, do you think CJ would replace one of those guys if he wins a Super Bowl or multiple Super Bowls? And which of those guys do you think he would replace? It's an interesting question. Erica says, not the headbutting. Bro, he did that, like, with no helmet on and, like, blood gushing out of his nose. It was crazy. He was a little nuts, man. Yeah, he was a little bit nuts. But to me, I feel like the 4 is solidified. If I was forced to answer that question right now, quarterback being the most important position in football, the most popular position in football, receivers, they're sexy. And then DNs with the sacks, they're sexy. I feel like as good of a linebacker as D'Amico was, yeah, he got tackle stats, but we like the sacks, we like the touchdowns, the amazing catches, the touchdown throws. I feel like D'Amico would probably have to come off of the Mount Rushmore if C.J. Stroud was on there. But that's tough because if D'Amico is the coach, now as a player, he solidified his place, and as a coach, he solidified his place. So that's difficult. Maybe you just add a 5th person to Mount Rushmore and say, screw it. I don't want there to only be 4. Why does there only have to be 4? Let's just change the rules because that's what we do. Yeah, I agree with you, Aaron. He says, hard question, man, but I wanted Stroud there. He would be on the Mount Rushmore of the Texans. I don't disagree with that, man, but I mean, Mount Rushmore only has 4 guys. So at least the Texans are at a point where they're starting to form a Mount Rushmore. They've had enough great players on their team where now this is even a debate. And that's great. I'm really excited about that. And, so free agency, they're probably not going to make any big moves now. Now they'll just be making little roster moves. I think they've already got a 90-man roster set. So now we're looking to the draft. We have no first-round pick, but you never know. I mean, maybe they move up. Maybe they feel like their second-rounders for next year are valuable enough to push them up in this year's draft. I was really hoping they draft a receiver in the first round, but I'm just sitting here talking to myself What do I know? I mean, these guys get paid big bucks to make much, much better decisions. Cecil wants to know about the new jerseys. That is a good question, man. Actually, I meant to put a picture of them on my board and I forgot. But what do you guys think about the new swag? I think they're getting a lot of hate for them for no reason. Like, people are saying all you did was change the font. Well, they weren't going to change the colors. I don't think they were going to change the logo. I wouldn't even consider it a rebranding or a new jersey. It's just, I guess you could say they tweaked it a little bit. I think they're fire, though. I think the people who are hating on them are just haters in general. It's so easy to do that, man. Like, the internet is just full of haters, bro. And it really bugs me because every day I turn on my phone or the computer, and maybe one day I'll know I've arrived when I have haters for this show. But I've seen so many people clowning on the Texans' new jerseys, saying that they look just like the Falcons' jerseys, which I disagree with. I mean, they're not the same colors, except for the Falcons have a white jersey, the Texans have a white jersey. The font is different. The stripes are different. But it's just like we live in a world where everybody's got to have something negative to say. Side note, I was arguing with people about Beyonce singing country music not that long ago. And we don't have to go there, but it's just like, dude, if you don't like something, you can just ignore it, walk away from it. Like, I'm not trying to force you to like it because I think stuff is subjective. Like, I'm not going to force you to like Texans uniforms. I think it was about time the Texans changed their uniform, though. Like, I think the good thing about it is we feel like we're moving in a new direction. It's a new team. It's one of those things where, like, they're going to feel different. And hopefully it's not bad luck. I don't think it's bad luck. I don't believe in that kind of thing. I think they'll be good. My wife says that I'm one of them. I'm forever trolling people on Facebook. That is inaccurate. I enjoy sparking debate on Facebook, and it's because I'm a podcaster. Like, that's what we do. And I go and I look for interesting conversations, and I want to know what the people think and what the people are saying. And I want to correct them when they're wrong. Nothing wrong with that. That's what the president of Houston Sports Nation does. And you know what, dear? You being the first lady, you do the same thing, just in your own way. Everybody knows my woman's a boss. If you don't think my woman's a boss, then you've not met her. And that's all I got to say about that. But so I would say the state of the Texans, of all of our teams, actually, I think the Texans, though they haven't had the success of the Astros, I think the optimism surrounding them is probably the highest of all of our teams, and rightfully so. They've done a really remarkable turnaround, and D'Amico Ryans deserves a lot of credit. Nick Caserio deserves a lot of credit, and I'm excited about him. And let's see. So, anybody else have a Mount Rushmore for the Texans before I leave on to the next subject? We're going to get to the Rockets in a minute. I'm going to check the score. There's probably several people watching this game. It is the end of the second quarter, and the Rockets are leading 68-61. It appears the leading scorer for the half is Dylan Brooks. What a wonderful segue. Let's talk about the state of the Houston Rockets. Okay. Yes, I'm doing a show in the middle of a Rockets game. And as I said before, some of you might be like, what in the world? How can you be the president of Houston Sports? You don't even know the Rockets are playing. Bro, I knew the Rockets were playing. I picked this date like a month and a half ago, almost 2 months. And the Rockets were not playing well. As a matter of fact, they were sucking badly. Jalen Green was terrible. Him and Alp could not ever have a good game at the same time for some reason. And they kept falling further and further back into the standings. And it looked like by the time I got to this show, we'd be talking about offseason and the draft. And I really felt that way after Alp hurt himself against the Sacramento Kings, injuring his leg, his knee, and his ankle. And he's out for the season. So once that happened, to be honest with you, I just thought the Rockets were cooked. I'm like, there's no way in the world this game on the 21st of March is going to mean anything. I was wrong. And I admit I was wrong. The Rockets are on fire right now. If they win tonight, they'll have won 9 of their last 10 games. They're 8-1 in the last 9 games. And keeping it real, they haven't really beaten anybody. The Sacramento win was good. They beat, what was the team they just recently beat? That was pretty decent win. Sorry, the Cleveland win. They beat Cleveland and they stomped Cleveland. And Cleveland was healthy. Like, they had everybody. So they've had a couple of good and impressive wins in there. And here's the way you know a team is playing well. The teams they are playing, if the teams are supposed to beat, they're beating them badly. I think of their last 4 wins, like 3 of them have been by double digits. So they're doing really well. And I got to say, one of the reasons I thought they were cooked after Alp got hurt is because Jalen Green has not been good this year. He just hadn't. And we've had many talks about it. And we've always asked the question, like, how much longer do we give Jalen Green? How much longer are we going to be patient with Jalen Green? Should the Rockets trade Jalen Green? Well, something has gotten into Jalen Green over the last few weeks. Or dare I say, maybe Jalen Green has gotten something into someone else? We'll get there in a second. But he's been balling. And I want to show you Jalen Green's last 10 games. 27.3 points per game. 6 rebounds per game. 3 assists. 47.5 field goal percentage. 38.3 3 points. Okay, the free throw is not great, but he had a couple games where he shot 100% from the free throw. The man's balling. And here's my concern. This is going to be the challenge for Ime Udoka. Regardless of what happens in this season, Ime Udoka has got to figure out, how do I get Alperen Şengün and Jalen Green to cook at the same time? Because right now, either one of them has a good game and the other one doesn't, or they both have bad games. Like, they almost never have good games together. And that's the coach. He's got to figure that out, because I think that they have a potential to be a really dynamic duo in the NBA. And then you take Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore. Unfortunately, I feel like we're on the clock for Victor Wembanyama. This team needs to get really good before Victor Wembanyama reaches his prime, because if that dude can put on some weight and get stronger, he is going to be a problem. And he's in our division and he plays for our rivals. We hate the Spurs. We've always hated the Spurs. I swear, if Victor Wembanyama turns the Spurs into a dynasty again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle that. I really don't. So we have a window. We got to get Jalen. We got to get Jabari. We got Tari Eason. He's got to stay healthy, first of all. But we got to get these guys. They probably have a 3-4 year window before Wemby is just going to be a problem. Now, I don't know how well the Spurs are going to build around him. Maybe he goes somewhere else. That tends to be what players do these days. I know the Spurs were known for keeping their guys forever, but it's a totally different time. But Jalen Green, man, and you know what? There was a very, very knowledgeable, handsome podcaster who once said something about being patient with Jalen Green. Now, I have to admit, I've been super impatient with Jalen Green. There's been a few times that I have gotten on Facebook, Instagram, and said, we got to have a serious talk about Jalen Green. The problem is, man, I keep forgetting that Jalen Green is 21 years old. This motherfucker's spitting. He's 21. He's a baby. Mm-hmm. What were you doing at 21? What were you doing at 21? I'm about to be 40. I'm still trying to figure some things out. Still trying to figure out how to make this podcast work. I was doing at 21. I was selling fine jewelry at the mall. Yeah, if that's what you want to call it. Turns out I was right. What do you know? Somebody who self-proclaims themselves the president of Houston sports probably tends to be right from time to time. But Jalen Green's balling. I'm not going to lie. And I don't know what happened. If any of you guys watched the rehearsals, you saw that there was a rumor about him impregnating a much, much older woman. Now, I do need to correct myself because I said Drea Michelle was 47. Well, it turns out she's 39. I don't know where I read she was 47, but she's only 39. I don't know if that changes anything for you guys, but something's changed for JG. And this is according to Hood Ratchet TV. It's been all over the news, but Hood Ratchet, that is my go-to source on Instagram. 22-year-old NBA player Jalen Green expecting to be a father after his 39-year-old girlfriend, Drea Michelle, announces she's pregnant. Now, there had been lots of speculation about that already because she was showing up to the games and wearing oversized clothing, which, as you can tell from this picture, that's not normally what she wears. So people were speculating that she was pregnant, and they went ahead and confirmed it. So here's the deal. Jalen obviously knew that she was pregnant, and maybe that's why he was struggling a little bit. Maybe he wasn't as focused as he needed to be. Maybe it was distracting him. But something happened, and I think he realized he's going to have to be paying child support soon, and this dude just started balling out. So go ahead and get that bag, Jalen, because you're going to have to split it 2 ways probably. Yeah, Drea Michelle wins the bag again, and she's not going to fumble it. She's got sturdy grip on the bag, believe that. So, I don't know. Now the Rockets have a chance to make the play-in. Here's my question to you, if you guys want to answer it in the chat. If they don't make the play-in, are you going to consider this season a failure? For me, I actually kind of expected them to come just short of the play-in this year. So, if they actually make it, that would be great. If they fall just short, I can't say that the season was a failure because honestly, that's what I expected them to do. I kind of thought they would this year be what the Orlando Magic were last year. Improved, win more games, fall just short of the play-in. And so if they make it, I think they're going to be ahead of schedule. That's what my thought process is. And I really hope that they do because the Rockets are my favorite team in Houston. I'm not ashamed to say it. And if they were to become relevant and, oh my goodness, if they ever won a championship again, yeah, I'd probably cry. Not going to lie. But yeah, I think, I talked about in one of my other rehearsals, Jalen Green, his numbers right now are better than Kobe Bryant's were 3 years into his career. And in Los Angeles, nobody was saying, get rid of Kobe Bryant. And I'm not saying he's going to be Kobe Bryant. Don't quote me as saying that. Don't go tell people not to listen to this podcast because the Moof Milker who hosts said that Jalen Green's going to be Kobe Bryant. But I think he's going to be really good. There's nobody on this team, maybe other than Amen Thompson, and Amen Thompson can't shoot the way Jalen can, but Amen has probably as much potential as Jalen Green. Cam Whitmore, as big and strong and athletic as he is, he can't do what Jalen Green does. Jalen Green does some things on the court that, dare I say, remind you of a young Michael Jordan. He did one move in the game against the Wizards where he went up with one hand, got bumped, switched to the other hand in midair. Like that's some Michael Jordan stuff right there. And they don't have anybody else that can do that. Aaron Childs asked what my Rockets Mount Rushmore would be. That's a great question. Obviously Akeem Olajuwon is number one. So as much as I love Clyde Drexler, he only played for the Rockets for 3 seasons. So I don't know if I put him on there. I've got Hakeem Olajuwon, I've got Yao Ming. I've got James Harden is on the Mount Rushmore. You guys can hate me for that one. The one I'm debating is, should I put Moses Malone or Tracy McGrady on that Mount Rushmore? So you've got Olajuwon, you've got Yao. Man, Steve Frank. Ooh, that's tough. That's a good question, Aaron. I actually didn't think about that. I wasn't expecting someone to ask me that. That is a really good question. I'm going to go with Olajuwon, Yao, Moses Malone, and James Harden. I want to put T-Mac on there, but T-Mac did not win a single playoff series as a Houston Rocket. And Moses Malone won MVP. Yao Ming won playoff series. And James Harden is probably the second best Rocket that ever lived. I know that's going to piss some people off, but prime Houston Rockets James Harden was that dude. And I know everybody hates him now, but once he retires, everybody's going to love him. The same way you guys did Tracy McGrady. When Tracy McGrady left the Rockets, you all hated him. You guys could not stand that dude. And it wasn't really his fault. Like, number one, Tracy McGrady always balled out in the playoffs. I know I said he didn't win any playoff series, but to be honest with you, that was not on him. Like, he always stepped up his game in the playoffs. He played better in the playoffs than he did in the regular season, which you cannot say that about James Harden. So you know what? Bump James Harden and put T-Mac on there. That's tough, man. That's good, man. I'm going to have to think about that. Great question, though, Aaron. I really appreciate you bringing the heat tonight, man. That's really good. So the state of the Rockets. I'm still going to say the state of the Rockets is good. Ime Udoka, look, Alperen Şengün was asked about Ime Udoka, and he said he's the best coach he's ever had. Now, to be fair, he's from Turkey, so I don't know how many great basketball coaches there are in Turkey. But there's good basketball coaches all over the world. Just because he's in Turkey, I mean, his coach could be American or, I mean, in Europe, they play good basketball. So I don't know, but according to LP, he says that Ime Udoka is the best coach he's ever played for, and I can see that, and I hope that the Rockets continue to get better. Their potential it's out of this world. But like I said before, that boy Wemby is coming, so they got to do something quick. I hope if they make the play-in this year, that'd be great. But next year they got to be a playoff team. Like, they got to be a playoff team next year, because San Antonio is probably only going to be bad for another year or two. And then they're coming. So let's get it done, Rockets. All right, lastly, really quick, let's do the state of the Houston Cougars. You like how I put on my really deep voice for that one? I'll be honest with you, I don't watch a lot of college basketball. I don't like watching college basketball. College basketball has been running the same offensive sets since the games were in black and white. And everybody plays zone defense. And there's like a 500-second shot clock. Like, I just don't like it that much, to be honest with you. But I rep Houston 10 toes down. And I know that the Cougars are a team that this city should be proud of. And not just for this season, but what they've been doing. The Houston Cougars are the number 1 seed in the South region. Kelvin Sampson won the Henry Ibo Award, which is the Coach of the Year award in college basketball. We know he's a great coach. We know they're going to be physical. They're going to play really tough defense. They're going to rebound. They're going to get offensive rebounds and putbacks. And they're going to play stifling defense. But the reason they're going to get so many offensive rebounds is because they're also going to miss a ton of shots. That's the question. All the things they do well. If the Houston Cougars are going to win the college basketball championship, they're going to have to score points. Can they score enough points to win? That is yet to be seen. Now, there are some teams that were defensive teams. If there is one sport where the adage of defense wins championships rings true more than any other, I would say it's in college basketball, because especially now, there's just not a lot of great scorers in college basketball anymore. They're either one and done, and so they don't develop their game. A lot of teams are going to a lot of players are going to the G League now. Some of them, I mean, there's G League. I can't remember the league that the Thompson brothers are from. There's other alternatives. Some of them go play overseas and then come over here. College basketball is a hard watch, man. It just really is. And for me, I'm going to root for the Cougars, but I see a lot of teams in their bracket like Texas A&M, Duke. Like I said, I don't watch a ton of college basketball, but I know enough about college basketball to know that those teams score. And I think good offense usually wins against good defense. So the Cougars are going to have to find a way to score some points. Otherwise, they're going to be going home early. They could go home in the second round because I think they could possibly draw Texas A&M in the second round. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm going to root for the Cougs. I want them to win. I'm not a Texas A&M fan. I want the Cougars to do well. And I think that they have a really good shot because of their defense. But they're going to have to do something they haven't been able to do up to this point, and that's score enough points to win the whole dang thing. That's about as much as I have to say about college basketball. I know many of you were clamoring for college basketball. I'm sorry that I'm not an expert on that, but the sign of a good leader is knowing what you don't know, knowing what you're not good at, and surrounding yourself with good people who are going to be able to help you out. You know, if that's how you know that, yes, I self-appointed myself, but I believe in democracy. I believe in listening to the people and having good people around me. So what I'm going to do in those instances where it's things I'm not very knowledgeable about, I will bring on help. I will bring on a cabinet, if you want to say that. I have a soccer correspondent that I'm trying to line up to talk some Dynamo at least once or twice a month. And because we're going to rep Houston, all parts of Houston. And so I think that the state of Houston sports in general is very, very good. It's strong, and I'm happy to say that. Let's see. Do we have time to talk some outside the lines really quick? I don't see any of my Love is Blind people in the chat. Honey, you still there? I don't know if my wife's still there. Bryce, Erica, did you guys watch Love is Blind? Ron, anybody? Ooh, the Rockets now have a 68-66 lead over the Bulls. They should win that game. And I think they will. And if they do, that's going to be 7 in a row. That's going to be 9 out of their last 10. And they're catching up to the Lakers and the Warriors. So the Rockets, look, the state of Houston sports is great. All right. Erica, Whitney, they're here. I'm going to give you my take on the Love is Blind reunion. I'm probably going to lose the rest of the audience that I barely had anyway. But here we go. Here's my takeaway from Love is Blind. We should not be shocked at the drama that goes on a show where people voluntarily come and decide they want to propose to someone they've never seen after talking to them through a wall for a week and a half. Clearly, these people suck at life and relationships. And I don't say that to be harsh. There was a time in my life where I sucked at life and relationships as well. And I don't know, if I was good looking enough, perhaps I would do something that desperate as well. I don't know. Here's what I do know, though. I think there's a lot of people on that show who got a bad rap that shouldn't have. This is going to sound like I'm being biased towards the men, but I have some criticism of some of the men as well. The number one person who was given a hard time that I think didn't deserve it was my boy Clay. All right. If you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you've already left. My man Clay kept it 100 with his girl AD from the jump about how he felt about marriage, how he felt about relationships, the trauma he dealt with from his parents, the reservations he had, not knowing if he would be able to stay faithful to a woman. I can't think of many other ways he could have made it more clear where he stood. Here's what I think happens. I think there's men and women who go to this show because they are in love with the idea of getting married. And I don't think it's unfair to say that most of the time it's the women who are in love with that idea, especially maybe some of the ones who are getting older, feel like that biological clock is ticking. They fall in love with the idea of falling in love and getting married. And I felt like that's what happened with AD. I wouldn't even call what Clay was saying to her red flags, but she just wasn't paying attention. She wasn't paying attention. And look, I think AD was probably a good woman. I think Clay realizes he missed out on a good woman, and that happens in life. But that dude, I mean, my wife said he was a douchebag like the whole time until the reunion, because I think he showed who I felt like he was the whole time. I think he was very aware of the cameras and not comfortable, so sometimes he sounded really corny. Like, here's an example. He'd be like, "Hey, baby, look at this water bottle. This is a nice water bottle, isn't it, baby? Yeah, it's nice. It is nice, isn't it? Yeah, I like this water bottle. It's good. You know, I had water bottles like this growing up. Did you? You had water bottles? Yeah, me too." That is a person who's just completely uncomfortable in the situation he's in. Because I have a feeling that when maybe that's how he talks in real life. I don't know. But I just felt like him being uncomfortable in the situation made him seem maybe not as genuine on the show as he ended up being at the reunion. I'm not one to tell anybody what to do with their life, but if AD was my cousin or my sister, I would say, give that man another chance. Give that man another chance. All right. I think we can all collectively say, fuck Trevor. And listen, one of the signs of a good leader is also someone who can show grace. Being a man who at one point in his life was extremely broken and in an extremely toxic relationship, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's justified. Even those, I might have just used the same word twice with different words. But I can understand how a person who is not mentally well, who is a shell of themselves, who is so engulfed in toxicity, I can 100% see how they could end up where Trevor ended up. It doesn't make it right. It's still messed up. He's still extremely immature. He needs to go to therapy. And I don't know that man is ever going to get a sane, non-broken, non-toxic woman to ever fall in love with him again. Now, trust me, there's some people out there who are probably like, oh my goodness, that's so sweet. I can't believe he would do that just to get on Love is Blind and fall in love. Like, somebody out there is probably thinking that. But like clearly this woman that he was going to marry before he got there and then decided, okay, I'll marry you after because things didn't work out for me on the show. I mean, that's the type of woman this dude is probably destined to be with from now on. And I hope he doesn't hurt himself because he got extremely embarrassed. Like, it was just awkward even watching on TV. Like, I wanted to bury my head in the pillow laying in bed. Like, oh my goodness, what is happening right now? But so there, I took a poop on one of the guys too because he deserved it. But yeah, if I had a criticism of most of the women, I mean, you should be self-confident and you should believe that you're as great as you know that you are. But some of them were just very in love with the idea of falling in love and had very high opinions of themselves. And I don't mean just the way that they look. I wasn't surprised that Laura and Jeremy didn't work out because Laura clearly didn't like Jeremy, and maybe for good reason. Jeremy's probably a douchebag, but that just was not a match made in heaven at all. And I argued with somebody on Facebook. I'm going to wrap this up, like I said, because half of my audience, if they were even there to begin with, is going to leave now. I'm going to wrap it up this way. I argued with somebody on Facebook, like, Jeremy and Sarah Ann are villains to everybody else but me. Because just like I can understand how Trevor ended up where Trevor ended up, I can also understand how Jeremy and Sarah Ann ended up where they ended up. Now, could they have handled it better? Absolutely. 100%. Do they suck at life? Absolutely. They suck at life. But that's why they're on Love is Blind. But unlike Trevor, who I think what they did is not justified, I am someone who broke all the rules so that he could fall in love. And if I'd have followed all the rules that I was supposed to follow, I would have not met the love of my life and been married to my best friend right now. So to the rules, I say bump you. To the rules, I say everybody who's judging these people, like, you're not, this is not a normal situation. Normal people don't date two women at the same time and then after a week decide I got to marry one of them and basically just flip a coin. Like, nothing about the situation is normal. Nothing about Sarah Ann being broken up with and then having to just never talk to this dude again when you just had this intense experience with them and she didn't really say much for herself when they broke up. So to say it was wrong for her to reach out to Jeremy, like, if they had been engaged for 2 years and Jeremy and Sarah Ann were broken up for 2 years and like they had their closure, yes, it would be wrong to reach out. But they were literally broken up for like 3 days. And Jeremy was not very convincing that he did not want to pick Sarah Ann. Like, the way he broke up with her was just unconvincing. So I can see 100% where she got the audacity to send the message that she sent. And that is my take on Love is Blind. Chelsea does not look like Megan Fox. My wife put in the comment something that I probably won't say out loud because I don't want to get canceled. But yeah, I'm sure they'll do this again. Like, I thought after the first season, I'm like, surely this will never happen again. Like, this is a one-time thing. Apparently not. Season 7's coming, so we'll be waiting with bated breath for that. And another Perfect Match season is coming out. And I think a couple of people, I think Jessica is going to be on there. Izzy from last season. I'll tell you what, you probably didn't think when you turned on this podcast we were going to talk about Love is Blind. And I don't know how many times we'll do that. I just like doing a little segment where we go off the field for a little bit. I do want to recommend a couple other podcasts that you might enjoy listening to. So Chopping It Up with P. Scott is a sports/life podcast similar to mine. I'm very grateful for my friend Prescott Kelly, who I guess you could say we've mentored one another. So you guys Google him. He's on Apple, Spotify. He also does live streams on Facebook sometimes. The name of the show is Chopping It Up with P. Scott. And then I will recommend Coffee Meets Vodka from my friend Rhea Hensler. Both of these people I met from the Pod Houston Facebook group. She will give you all the tea about Love is Blind and every other sleazy reality show that there is, because that's her jam. She does the pop culture. She does the gossip a whole lot better than I do. Like, after watching this, you guys might think, hey, this dude needs to stay in his lane. But I'm still going to continue to have my guilty pleasures. What can I say? Like, it's, guys, you can't sit here and act like all you do is think and talk about sports 24/7. It's not true. I know it's not true. And I know a lot of you guys probably watch these shows too. You just don't want to admit it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the inaugural State of the Union address for the city of Houston. Look, the State of the Union is good. The leadership is strong. The following is strong. Let's make it stronger. I want you guys to share. Reminder of all the ways you can support. You're doing it right now. Listen, share, hit the likes, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything, whether you're following on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I started a Twitch today, and I might start streaming on Twitch because I'm using Restream, which will allow your stream to go on 5 different platforms. So I'm trying to figure out what those 5 will be. Yeah. So I'll keep you guys informed. But like I said, thank you guys so much. There's 1,000 things you could have been doing tonight. You tuned into the show. You made it through some technical difficulties yet again. I've got to somehow figure out why this keeps happening. But thank you guys so much. To Erica, to my wife, Whitney, I love you. To Aaron, man, thanks for hanging in there. Everybody who tuned in, I'm going to see you guys very, very soon. In the meantime, I want you to keep standing 10 toes down for H-Town, and I will see you guys next week.
This has been the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, hosted by Nick Stevenson. Tune in next week for more news and analysis of your favorite Houston teams. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, the app formerly known as Twitter, if that's even really still a thing. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.